Hi, this is Becca from Mad, Bad, and Dangerous to Read. To say I have a tendency to agonize over 5-star ratings isn't an exaggeration. After reading a fantastic romance book, it might take me a few days to figure out whether it deserves a 5th star on Goodreads. You'd think I was single-handedly electing the chief minister of smut. I've begun to think this agony stems from a belief that, given just how astoundingly subjective book ratings can be, awarding a book 5-star status in many ways says more about me than the book. Which means that when I share with all of Goodreads that I think a book is a 5-star read, I'm sharing something personal. It's a moment of vulnerability. My favorite art might not be what defines me, but it gives clues to others, and gives me clues when I'm feeling clueless, which is like most of the time. If 5-star ratings say something about who I am, and I care about being understood by others and understanding myself, it feels important to get them right. That said, people on Goodreads aren't showing up to learn more about me. They're showing up because they want to know what to read. The truth is, I likely wouldn't tell someone to avoid a book just because I gave it 1 star. 1 star being yet another keenly subjective rating, sometimes fed by very big feelings. And there are 5-star books I don't often go out of my way to recommend to other romance readers. I can recognize that each one of those books might not prove breathtaking cover to cover. Each might well owe its 5th star to a handful of chapters or a single character or just a swirling, well-executed ballet of my favorite microtropes. Written reviews do matter, but given the fact that words fail us, and not just fail us, but due to negativity bias, fail us more when we're trying to capture a positive experience than a negative one, we find ways to make peace with the fact that people are expressing very complex feelings using a very simple shorthand. For some, 5 stars means a book is a masterpiece, challenging themes, timeless characters, gorgeous lyrical prose. For some, it means a book changed how they see themselves or others or the world around them. For some, it means a book generated deep personal investment in the trials, journeys, and relationships of the people within the novel, which, in romance fiction, are often one and the same. For some, it means that even after a million rereads, the book remains thrilling and strange. In the same vein, 5 stars can mean that a book never fails to deliver the escape that many readers desire, the consistent opportunity to wrap themselves in another life, to feel something that they can't get enough of. I love those features, and they often inform my decisions regarding 5-star ratings. But when I audited both my 4- and 5-star books, I realized that plenty of my 4-star reads also meet those standards. For me, what does make the difference between a 4- and 5-star book? Romance is a genre that prioritizes feeling, and so after considering this question at length, I wasn't surprised to discover that the difference really comes down to something impressionistic. 4-star books are books I love and respect. They're reliable rereads, and had I the cash, I'd likely buy every single one of them. The work is truly impressive, and I am so frickin' glad to have stumbled across it. But 5-star reads are endearing. 5-star reads are books I'm extremely fond of. You might be saying, no duh, we're all fond of good books. How is that any different from your 4-star criteria? I think it would be helpful for me to clarify how I'm using these words. Big nerd alert here. In contemporary English, when something endears itself to you, it wins your affection, your love. But historically, desirable material called dear was also rare or expensive. In other words, to be endearing was to be made valuable. All my 5-star books are beloved, clearly, but they're also extremely precious to me. If those books somehow magically evaporated from the earth, my life would be changed, and not for the better. I would lose a priceless source of happiness. That's why I'm freaked out by 5-star books that only exist in e-format. They could be snatched from me at any time. Now, to say I'm fond of these books is another matter. Before being fond of something meant that you cherished it, it meant to be foolish, ridiculous, mad. When we say that your 37-year-old cousin is fond of her iguana, it means her affection for that iguana is fed by something that might seem to others outsized. To them, her tenderness for a creature Charles Darwin once referred to as lazy, stupid, and hideous, but also, by the way, quite yummy, is almost amusing in its incongruity. It registers as sweet, but also silly. Fondness comes with a sort of implied diminutive, the phrase, I'm very fond of, deliberately modest, even when said with sincere warmth. Modest, perhaps, because the sheer strength of that affection can be surprising, even to the person doing the doting. For that very reason, fondness signals a more idiosyncratic affection that is more individualized. And no matter to whom or what it's directed, it is very, very real. To some people, my decision to give Eris Adderley's Bass Ackwards 5 stars and Pride and Prejudice 4 might not make sense. But that's kind of what I love about that truth. Wherever that preference comes from, it's part of what makes me, me. For me, fondness for a book manifests in a few ways. Number 1, attachment. Attachment is something that I've already touched upon. See my 7 paperback copies of Sarah Manning's Unsticky. I feel it in my body, this desire to keep something near me, like literally, there's a magnetism to it, and in its presence my arms and shoulders and breastbone buzz. Just holding the book comforts me, just catching sight of its spine on my bookshelf makes me smile. Number 2, intimacy. For most of my life, I've been an auditory learner. My language skills came more from public radio than they did the books assigned in my K-12 classes. It took me a while before I could get lost in a printed text, and even now, it's not exactly easy. However, when I'm reading a 5-star romance, every voice, every image, every gesture is clear. The rest of the world is scattered, and I am so immersed in the space of the novel it might as well be a dream. And not just any dream, a recurring dream, a dream populated by characters I've come to know so well, so intimately. It's as if they exist solely for me. It's as if they were born of my subconscious. Number 3, longing. Most of my 5-star reads didn't start out as 5-star reads. Some started at 4, plenty started at 3, some even started at 2. These books didn't wedge themselves into my heart right away. I returned many of them to the library or Kindle Unlimited thinking I would never pick them up again. Until that thing happened that many of us have some familiarity with. One morning I woke up and for some reason I longed for that 3-star book. I craved that 2-star book. And maybe after that first reread I bumped that book to a 4. Maybe it took 2 more rereads before I admitted to myself that there's more to that book than I first thought. That sort of longing doesn't just go away once I recognize the depth of my feelings. There are mornings I wake up needing to read a particular 5-star book, and the sadness that I feel on days where there just isn't enough time is significant. Finally, my fondness for a book manifests as number 4, protectiveness. I can be very, very protective of my 5-star books. Again, just because I give a book 5 stars doesn't mean I'd recommend it to everyone. I can acknowledge how easily others might not see what I see. And I have some ambivalence about delivering a beloved piece of writing into the hands of someone who might understandably call it unworthy of 5-star status. That protectiveness isn't a matter of ego. I don't mind people disagreeing with me about the quality of a book. That protectiveness is for the health of the book, for its ability to get read by others, for it to survive and thrive. 5 stars is good for a book, obviously, but with new readers and new eyes come new opportunities for that book to get saddled with pissy 1- and 2-star ratings, which might be more likely to happen because my 5-star rating is so personal, it is so subjective. And maybe, conceivably, what if, perhaps, that could do a book harm? The language I'm using clearly anthropomorphizes these books. I know that a romance novel, no matter how alive it feels to me, no matter how intensely I feel about it, cannot feel harm. But there's something else that I know. While books cannot experience harm, authors can. I said before that my 5-star reads are precious to me, that they are a reliable source of joy, something very hard to come by without fear of type 2 diabetes. And that's why it's hard for me to forget their authors. In addition to being surprised and delighted by their craft, I'm grateful to them. I'm grateful to them for producing something that moves me. I'm grateful for the joy that they bring. It's difficult not to build a certain amount of attachment to an author in the same way it can be difficult not to feel attached to someone who cooks you hot, delicious meals every night. In both cases, that individual is regularly keeping you nourished. And so when someone on Goodreads sees a 5-star rating from me, sans review, this is the one thing I can say with any economy, without prompting any detective work, any attempt at psychoanalysis. This is a book I'm viscerally grateful to know. That's still a vague assertion. It might not help you understand a book's specific merits, but you will understand what that book is capable of doing.